So I thought I'd take a few minutes to show you how I did the background for the Team Noble channel art. We're not going to get into how the icons and logo and whatnot were made, but I'm going to show you kind of how this background here was done, and just to give you an idea of how you can do it. And it's a nice effect. It's very minimal. It's just based on some lines and shapes, and we'll kind of go over it real quick and see what we come up with. So I'm not going to use the same hexagonal pattern that we have going on here, but I did pick up a pattern that I did off my pattern site called DinPattern.com, and that's this one called Foundation. So if you ever go to DinPattern.com, that's where I have kind of this strange addiction of making patterns. So you can go here and download. They're free for commercial and personal use. So have a blast and see what you can find. This one's called Foundation. I did a while back. So we're going to use this. It's kind of got that blueprint type feel, very geometric, but it's subtle and it's a larger scale tile. So we're going to go with this. So here we go. So I opened the tile and laid it out to cover the canvas, and this canvas is 1200 by 1200 pixels, kind of roughly a YouTube background size, maybe a little bit smaller. But I thought we'd do something about this size just so you can use it for whatever. Works well for website backgrounds and Twitter backgrounds and whatever you want to use. So the main key to the Team Noble effect here was making the whole thing symmetrical, and the logo does a good job of that by itself. So blowing it up and then just using the shape of it as a guideline for how to lay out these other lines and effects is how this all came to be. So we're going to do something kind of similar. The first thing I want to do is I want to darken this pattern. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and let's play with the hue and saturation here. We want to darken it way down and then pump the saturation up to get that blue back. And we want more of a midnight blue. We don't want like a sea green blue. So we'll do something like that. The next step is we want to bring these lines back out a little bit. So if we go to Image Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and bump the contrast up, you can start pulling some of these lines back out. And then after that, let's go back into Adjustments, Hue, Saturation, and knock the saturation back down. And I think that's a good starting point right about there. So you can see I've pulled a guide out halfway across the canvas because we're just going to worry about one side for now. I'm just going to work on the left side, and then we're going to duplicate the whole thing, flip it, and that's going to be our effect. So the big next trick is to lay out some of these big shapes that we're going to be using. So I'll create a new layer, and then let's go to minimize some of this stuff. Let's go to the line tool and just start with we'll take a swatch from here and just do a darker version of that, almost black. Alright, so we have our line tool and we want some big bold shapes. So I've got this set to 80 pixels in width. Let's bump it to 90, and then let's just kind of draw out a couple shapes. And if this is used for a YouTube background at some point, you want to be able to pull the eye into the content. So let's kind of do like more of a burst outwards from the middle. So on each of these lines, I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer, and you kind of want to just play around with it. Probably two of the bigger shapes is good. And let's knock the line width down to, say, I don't know, maybe 40, roughly half. And let's do kind of another line. Let's do another line breaking through these like that, and then maybe one more, and this one can kind of break this way. So the next thing I want to do is rasterize these lines so we can work with them a little bit more. Preferably this guy here. Let's give ourselves a little more room, and then let's cut this at a different angle. So if you grab your polygon lasso tool, and I just made a downward angle, and I just kind of cut that, and then we're going to do the same to this kind of thinner one down here, and I don't know, just kind of eyeball it. We're just playing around here, so cut that way. So that'll make kind of a nice triangular shape, very, you know, strong. So let's go ahead and merge all these together. Hold Shift, select the layers. For PC, it's Control E. We'll merge all those layers, and then let's knock this down to 50% opacity. So the next step is to start building our shading on top of it and to give it some depth. So polygon lasso tool again, just kind of draw out a selection, you know, the same angle that you got going on here with one of your lines, and let's go this way. And then I'm just using the arrow keys on the keyboard, and I'm just going to kind of pull this down, move it around a bit, because we don't want on the edge, but we want to come into that shape a little bit. And then the next step is to start kind of painting a little bit of hint of color on it. So let's take another swatch. We want to lighten this way up. We don't want to go bright white just yet, but you know, something kind of lighter. And then take your brush and let's get a nice soft big fat brush. Let's do 150 pixels wide, and then you can just start kind of painting on a little bit of a highlight here. You can see that happening a little bit, and then move the your selection in just a little bit more, and then let's give it just another little touch of color here on the edge. So you can see we're starting to layer out those lines and get that nice subtle shadow effect on the inside. And then let's do one on the opposite side. So I'm going to take my polygon lasso tool again, kind of rough out the angle here, and let's go on the other side. And let's do, you know, we just barely want to hit the edge. We don't want to, you don't want you know, big chunks of color in there just yet. And again, let's move that up just a hair. Use arrow keys, maybe 10 pixels or so, and then just kind of hit it again. And now you can see we're getting that effect, you know, going on kind of here. Actually, since well, for this one, let's also hit the top. So let's draw another angle out here with the polygon lasso. And just to be safe, let's make a new layer, and let's kind of hit this top section up here and kind of bring it down like that. So I'm going to do the same effect to these other three lines, and I'm going to come back and show you how to do kind of the more of the outside highlight. So I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, so you can kind of see that I went through and colorized the other lines, and I went ahead and kind of overlapped some of the shadow here, so you can see where these lines cross. You know, we brought in some highlight over them, and most of the stuff is all done just within 2 layers. So it's kind of a cool effect. The next thing we want to do is kind of give a little bit of highlight around the element. So for this, I want to pick kind of a more saturated, kind of brighter color. So let's pick kind of a pale blue highlight here, and then we want to make a new layer. A trick here is if you hold Control and then click on a layer, what we want to do is select the outside of this shape of these lines. So if you hold Control, and we're on the shape 4 here, if you hold Control and click on it, it'll automatically select the outside of that element. Well, actually, it's selecting the element, so we're halfway there. The next step we need to do is come up to select, and then select inverse, or Shift Control I, which I can never remember, so select inverse. Keep with the brush tool. Let's want a slightly smaller brush, maybe 100, and well, for most of these. So now what we're going to do is kind of give color. You'll see how this works. Well, that's still too wide. Let's do 65, do a preset. Kind of give color. See how we're kind of mimicking an outer glow, but we're controlling where the glow is going to happen. So if you kind of paint around it, you know, you don't want to go all the way around. You just want to kind of hint of color. Remember, minimal and subtle is what we're looking for. Kind of go here, and then what we're gonna do here. This is too tight, so let's select out this area, and by holding Alt, then I can go back to a nice, you know, larger brush and just kind of hit this without having to worry about the other part. Let's also get rid of this for now. Let's select that out so we can kind of get this edge. And then you can always hit control and reselect it. Select inverse, and we want this inside down here. So let's select out this edge, and now we can do an even larger brush. You know, varying up the brush sizes is what really starts pulling this apart. You don't want the whole thing to be that consistent, you know. And then you probably want some on the other side. So let's select this one more time. Select inverse. Let's get rid of now more of this right side for now. And that didn't work. What did I do? I think I selected off the canvas too far and broke it. Let's try that again. Am I on the right layer? Okay. Select inverse. And let's see what this is doing. There we go. Okay. So we want to paint here. And there. Still just a hair. That's about good. So now we have this nice highlight going around everything. The next thing to do is we want a dark too. So we're going to kind of overlap a dark underneath it. So make a new layer below that. Select inverse. And let's color swatch. We want it darker than here. So color swatch your major shape. Grab a little bit darker. And then let's kind of paint a little bit. This is going to be very, very subtle. So let's just kind of come around here. I'm sorry, I'm still suffering from a cold. So my nose does not want to comply. So let's do a little more shading here. We want to get outside of that glow just a tad. Can't talk either. And something like that. There we go. So the next big step is to find a couple primary colors that we like and do, you know, let's go back to the Team Noble one and do kind of these radial burst type things. And you see we kind of follow the shape and then we do kind of an outward burst. So for here, let's do, well, we want a bright blue for sure because we want to keep that consistency going. Step here is line tool, 1 pixel, and this will take some time too. So what we're going to do is kind of follow our shape, right? Same angle, and something like that. Get those rasterized. Let's move those up just a hair. And then the trick is to just kind of delete the ends, fade them out. So if you do something like this, you know, we can kind of give it that Tron style. And let me do another here. And you see I'm just kind of going free form with it. I'm not too, I don't really care if it's precise. I mean, you could get precise, but you know, it's just kind of whatever you want to do. And you can break it kind of on the outside here. So let's kind of do that, and we'll fade that one down like that. We'll let the other one go. And then this away. Let's come inwards, like so. Rasterize that and kind of break it here. So you can see how it's kind of building that highlight. And of course it is very different than the Team Noble one, but it's that same subtle effect that we're doing here. Let's do one more. And this one, since we're crossing paths of all this, we don't want big harsh lines in the middle. So where it crosses here, we want to delete those major sections. We just want enough, we'll leave that part. Maybe kind of fade that out like that. We just want it to kind of cross here just a little bit, and we're going to go back and do that to the lines going the other way too. So let's do here. Remember to rasterize that line so you can go through and delete some sections, and do the big chunks like that. And what do we want to do here? Let's get rid of that edge. And enter. So let's go back to our other lines, because those kind of cross too, and kind of just fade them out just a hair, just to get that nice intersection, but it's not too busy on the eyeball. And then we have this one, and let's do on that side. There we go. So let's do our radial lines, and for this one I'm going to pick, I don't know, yellow, kind of a limeish. I don't know. Let's see what it looks like to do our next batch of lines. So here we're just going to kind of follow, we're just going to kind of do something radial, kind of reaching out from it. And I'm doing a bunch of lines, and they're all coming from the center. And that one we'll kind of do like that. There we go. And can I batch? Yes, you can batch rasterize these. Nice. Okay, so here, go ahead and fade these out. Probably use a bigger fade on here. And I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll be back. Okay, so you can see I went through and faded out these lines. And a couple of them I changed the color to more of a sea green, just to vary it up a little bit. So the last big trick is to kind of find an area to do kind of your central kind of color burst type thing. So what we're gonna do is, let's go ahead and do white and choose the layer. Let's create a layer behind your major lines, and then remember, control select the line area here and select inverse, and let's do a great big brush. 300, is that too big? Let's try 300 pixels and see what happens. And we want to be right dead center, so maybe something, let's do an even bigger, let's bump this up to 666. Alright, so let's undo that, and let's just do kind of a bigger burst like that. That actually looks kind of cool if you leave it, but we're going to tone it down, drop the opacity down to something like that. And there you go. That kind of pulls that center element, away a little bit more, which is nice. For YouTube, what you're gonna have to do is you wanna fade out all of these edges. So I'm gonna create a new layer and just go ahead and do this. But you know how you kind of have to bleed out to a color, or blend out to a color. So let's kind of go ahead and do that. Actually, let's go ahead and copy that and flip it horizontal. Come to that edge. There you go. And another layer and do the bottom, since for size limits you kind of have to fade out the bottom too. So see how this could make kind of a decent YouTube background. It's kind of nice. So next thing to do is I'm just going to go ahead and, except for this burst, I'm going to merge everything into one to make life easier. Now you might want to do this line by line, but for timing, I'm just going to do the whole thing. So now what I'm doing is taking the rectangular selection tool, select that right hand side, and just delete it. And I take that back. We do have to delete the burst too. So we have exactly half of our design here. And then in this case, I'm going to take both shapes, copy both layers, and edit transform, flip horizontal. And if you hold shift on your keyboard while you know, moving an element with your mouse, it'll stick to an axis or an angle. And we're just going to kind of pull that in the middle. And there you go. We have kind of that same effect. We just did blue and green and, you know, some gunmetal blue. But if you look at the Team Noble, you know, it's very similar. Oh, one other trick which you could do, I totally forgot, is this background pattern. Go ahead and select it. Let's do a elliptical marquee, and if you hold Alt and Shift and drag it out, it'll drag from the center, and it will give us a perfect circle. So let's do something like that, and then select, modify feather. Let's do 80 pixels. And then, since we're on our background layer here, let's go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and probably about 1.5% would be nice. So that gives us kind of that depth of field we got there, just like that. And there you go. Let's lose that guide, and that's it. That's how that effect was done. You know, you can lay this right behind your YouTube sections and throw in a logo and just have fun. So I'll go ahead and link up this PSD in the description. You guys can open it up and play with it. I'll go back to where everything was in layers though, so you can just take a look at it and have a blast. Again, the site is DinPattern.com for free patterns, and I'm making more all the time, so you know, something kind of a geometric style seems to work the best here, but play around with it. Try textures, try other stuff, and see what you can come up with. Alright, hope you enjoyed this. I'll try and do more, and if you didn't enjoy it, let me know, and I won't do any more. But there you go. I know it was long. Take care. Bye.